The latest commit for Oregon is five-star edge Richard Wesley out of Sierra Canyon in Southern California. Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst, host of the Portal podcast, host of Locked On Seminoles, friend of the show. He's got all sorts of titles, folks, all sorts of titles. And one thing that I love bringing you on here for, Brian, is your film breakdown. So Wesley, according to Greg Biggins of 24/7, is the most highly touted edge prospect to come out of the state of California since Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, at 6'5", 250, he's got similar measurables, but do you see Kayvon Thibodeau when you watch Wesley's film?
From an earlier stage, yeah, like he got to the point of Thibodeau's size probably 2 years earlier. He should be going into his junior year, but he's going to be a senior. So this is a kid I don't think's done growing. So I think him and Thibodeau are different long-term because I think obviously Thibodeau's done very well with New York. So he's a guy at the NFL level, which can never be discounted, by the way. But I think this young man will eventually grow into a D tackle because he's 250 already and he's 16. So what's he going to be when he's 21? He's not going to be 250. So if he can stay at edge at 270 or so, Oregon has hit the jackpot because strong side ends that can rush the passer are like platinum. They're as rare as it gets. But worst case scenario, you're going to get a three-tech that makes offensive guards very angry. So either way, Oregon wins.
Yeah, I think the recruiting momentum I discussed yesterday on the show is very real because Oregon needed that, especially with the Cantwell news today. Hopefully they can get Emmanuel Iheanacho. But I didn't talk a ton yesterday about what he can actually bring on the field. And I want to throw this at you, Brian. And this is someone who was a 2027 recruit. And, Biggins thinks he's going to rise in the rankings even more as time goes on for the 26 class because he had the reclassification. And I think the rankings are kind of, wobbly on putting a guy down in the exact same spot. But he's a really talented, really highly rated guy, no matter which way you slice it. I want to throw this name at you. Jordan Burch. Jordan Burch just played 2 years for the Ducks after 2 years at South Carolina, taken in the third round by the Arizona Cardinals, is listed as a defensive end / edge sort of guy and was 6'5", about 290 this past year for the Ducks, which was roughly his playing weight for the last couple of years. Do you think Wesley is bound to grow into that sort of body type? Or if he makes a concerted effort because Oregon tells him to, could he stay closer to 250 and be a bit more of a speed rusher? Because Jordan Burch was a great player the last couple of years. You wouldn't describe him as a speed rusher in any sense. He's more of a power guy.
Jordan Burch's strength, like when you watched his high school film, you knew he was going to get humongous. He was just different build. I think Wesley will get bigger. Burch is, oh my God. So I bet he plays inside some in the NFL, especially on 3rd and 8, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he was a little different. I don't think Wesley's going to be that wide and that big because Burch probably has to keep himself under 300. Like, be cognizant of what he's eating. He's a freakazoid, but a big one. I think Wesley will have a little easier time of it, and I think he's the happy medium between Thibodeau and Burch. And again, that's fine. He might be able to play that strong side end, but I think he'll be a better pass rusher just naturally because he can dip and bend with ridiculously long arms, which is what you want at any defensive end spot, in any defensive scheme, 3 or 4-man front. Now the only question is, does he want to get bigger so he can move inside occasionally, or how do they want to do it? That's more up to Oregon and Wesley because with today's training, like Oregon's facilities, I mean, come on, they can figure that out and they can adjust. In the middle of the season, they could add 10 pounds on him in 2 weeks. Like literally. It's, you see these weights at the beginning of the season, that stuff is never accurate, ever, ever, ever. And every 3 days, it's like a 5-pound difference. So if he wants to go up, get a little bigger during the season, he will, etc. I bet he plays multiple spots in multiple situations for whatever the Ducks want because they know what they're doing, and he's a freak athlete.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I think about Burch. Maybe a little Brandon Dorlus as well. Like typically a guy that, when you watch Wesley's film, he comes off the edge well and has a speed rush component, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Typically, those aren't guys that play as, or who we think of as an interior defensive tackle. How do you think that skill set translates to the interior of Oregon's D-line?
Well, I just think it's a mentality standpoint. You've got to accept it. Some guys won't do it and their careers come to a halt. Now, not many guys have Wesley skills, but when you outgrow D end, you have to go one spot. It's D tackle. It's pretty simple. In his case, I just think he's gifted enough to do both. And if he really watches his diet, he could be the ultimate swing guy. And the Ducks run different defensive schemes for different things that they're going against. They'll find a way to use him at both if he wants to do it. But again, you got to commit to that, because the guy in front of you at offensive guard at Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan, Wisconsin, that's 320 and change. You got to want to take that on. So I'm not worried about what Oregon wants to do. I'm worried about what he wants to do in terms of physically taking that on. Oregon's D-line coach and their scheme, they do anything they want because they have so many good D-linemen. They mix it up. He'll be fine. He just has to be able to take it on mentally, because some guys just don't want to play inside. I have no idea. I don't know Richard Wesley, but physically he can build himself up into that. He's just got to buy into what Oregon is coaching if they think he should play inside at least part-time.
Do you think that he is better against the run or against the pass right now at this stage in his football career?
Pass. Strength is something that is over time. I've tried to explain this to different guys I've worked out with. When you're 25, your strength is different than when you're 21, even if you're not lifting as much. You understand how, what, when, where, and why, and it's just different. I imagine in another year or so, he will be able to just run over guys. But if you watch his film, even at the high school level, it's more about avoiding a blocker instead of running over it. Not that he can't, but he hasn't gained that grown man strength yet. And when he does, that's when Richard Wesley can really go up. And to that point, you mentioned earlier Greg Biggins talking about him going up in the rankings. That would help. Like at the end of this year, when they do all the evaluations again, if he has several plays this year where he runs through an offensive tackle, that'll help him. And that would also help alleviate some of the politics after the year, because one of the reasons he's not ranked as high is not ticking off some of the kids that won't do interviews and stuff if you put a younger guy in front of him. Believe me, politics are real.
Yeah, that does not surprise me in today's world in the slightest. Frankly,
you should expect it.
I expect it. I fully expect that. I think when a lot of fans and frankly myself see, 5-star guys like Wesley who are top 5 at his position, top 20, 30 players nationally in the 24/7 composite, there is an expectation that he plays at least some as a true freshman. What do you think for a guy that is going to come into college Ryan Williams style at 17 years old? I wonder how often we hear about that. But I just wonder, should there be an expectation that he plays as a true freshman, or is it maybe a little, but by year 2, once they really figure out where he fits along that defensive line, that's when he makes a big impact?
Let me put it to you like this. I asked Ryan Williams right before he enrolled at Alabama, who can guard him? How do you guard him? He said, I'll just be – he's a real easygoing guy. He said, it's simple. If you don't get your hands on me at the line, it's over. And he was right. He proved that last year at the SEC. But he plays away from the line of scrimmage. When they play him in the slot, that is cheat code 101, because you're probably not going to get your hands on him, and he runs 10-3 on an average day. So, yeah, he ran almost 10-3 as a sophomore in high school when he wasn't healthy.
That's like what Luke Moga runs. That's a quarterback for Oregon, if you didn't remember.
Yeah, he is a freak too. But the point is still the same. Outside to inside. Inside guys usually take longer because it's about the weight room. There's no cheat code there. It's about strength. First down and 10, if that defensive end, 17-year-old, and I'm the offensive coordinator in the booth, we're running stretch right or stretch whatever play goes to him, I'm running right at it. And Dan Lanning knows that too, because he would do the same thing. 3rd and 8, sure, put him in the game. But first down and 10, you're asking somebody that's 17 years old against Ohio State or something like that, especially, no way. That's just dumb. He's not an outside guy. So corner, receiver, to a certain degree, running back, you can play those spots really quick, but the physicality is different. Run game, he would probably struggle. 3rd down and 8, if Richard Wesley gets 2 or 3 sacks his freshman year, shouldn't surprise anybody.